I'm Sharon Constanson. I'm chairman of the South African Chamber of Commerce, and I'm here with you, believe it or not, from the little foggy island of Guernsey. So welcome to all of you who are with us. Thank you very much for joining us. I'm going to start by talking to two people, David and Yanni, who you can see visible at the moment. I'll introduce them in a second. And then we'll have an in-conversation session with three of us. We will then be handing over to David and to Yanni, who will then be having in conversation with our not yet visible entrepreneurs who, in most cases, have actually been in an entrepreneurial world more than just a short while, some of them a good number of years, who bring to all of you the degree of experience and challenges and complexities that they've had to deal with, hopefully making any budding entrepreneur understand what those challenges are, and that you don't have to reinvent the wheel again, and that you can understand from others how you can get to some successes a lot quicker. Now, some of the things that challenge entrepreneurs, businesses, is the ratio of how many people don't make it in new businesses, because those challenges are so high. And one of the other things that we also see, and this is a global phenomenon, is that women struggle far more to get funding than men do, even when the panel has women on the funding. So it's just one of those interesting statistics. We also find that women in tech and fintech do equally struggle more than their male counterparts to actually succeed in funding and recognition and getting their larger customers. Then we look at the environment of the Black woman, and again, we've just added another layer of complexity again in trying to be successful. So every challenge is there to get in your way as an entrepreneur. And what we're saying is there are a number of women here, me included, who are entrepreneurs. I started my own business at the age of 26, and it's not easy. You have to be diligent, you have to be resilient, you have to take on how many no's and know that you are actually right in what you're doing. And some of the biggest successes in business today, I think Google and a few others, really well-known names, really struggled to get funding in their early days. And there are organizations that suddenly make it, and others that just really become solid, good businesses. They don't become the biggest brand name in the world, but they deliver to their customers, their founders, a good living, which is really what I think is more important than trying to be number one in something in the world, because that's quite a big challenge to expect. So with all those kind of challenges we have around liquidity, staffing, customers, funding, partners, partner relationships, all these things are things that are challenging every single one of today's businesses. And we're going to hear from all of them today. But I'd like to first start with an introduction to David White. David is the founder of DRG, and actually that is a combination of a number of companies in that group. Very strong award winner. He seems to win a lot of awards. I think I need to learn a trick or two from you, David. I need to apply for more of these things. So well done, always doing well in his own business, which is in various aspects of payroll management. He's also a mentor and a coach to many, many people. Many people in Durban really revere the quality of mentoring, coaching, support, and positivity that David brings to them to help them move forward. And I think three of the people present today fall into that category. So David, thank you, welcome for joining us. Yanni, I've known for a fair amount of time as well. We've discussed many opportunities, discussions, customers, engagements, solutions together. Yanni is a founder and owner of Bright Future Consulting. He's, as he calls himself, and I love these words, a specialist generalist. Yanni brings structure to those early days in an organization, helping them actually to get through the strategic process, actually understand where their path is. So how can you be successful and know where you're going if you're not going anywhere? So where are you going? And that's what Yanni brings to the equation. So thank you very much, Yanni, for being with us as well. The rest of the team, who are magic people, will be introduced by David shortly. Maybe if I start with yourself, David. I called upon you the other day and said, we'd like to showcase some entrepreneurs. And David, in his inevitable way, said, of course, no problem, I'll find them. 10 minutes later, we had the cast you have in front of you today. David, just share with us that energy you have for the young people, for the young business owners, and why do you do it?
That's such a good question, Sharon. Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I just love spending time with entrepreneurs. I find that entrepreneurs believe that it's possible that the world can be a better place for everyone. I love the energy that entrepreneurs have. And I'm older now. I've made a lot of mistakes and I have learned different lessons along the paths that I've been on. And it is just such a joy for me to share and to be able to revisit these passions that the entrepreneurs have. So in short, I just love being with the entrepreneurs. And it also gives me an opportunity to share with them parts of my own life journey. Mm-hmm. And I, very often when I'm sitting with entrepreneurs, and I know I have entrepreneurs here with me, we're just sharing together. It's not an entrepreneur or coach. We're just talking and sharing, and suddenly we're coming up with wonderful ideas. So it really is a sharing process, you know.
I had a wonderful experience the other day. I had a brainstorm session with one of my directors of one of my businesses. And the comment that was made earlier, it's very lonely as an entrepreneur. You are on your own. Nobody's there with you. You can't share it with your staff because that's dangerous. They don't want to see you at a weak or uncertain moment. You share with them when you're asking them to brainstorm ideas to complement something you've already got as a direction, at least on your own. And I was trying to work out who we could partner with in the business. And the interesting one is I sat there for ages with a piece of paper and a pen or keyboard, and I hadn't got very far. But the minute we had two people on a Zoom call, the creativity, the ideas bounced off one another, and we came up with a list too many. So we now filter it, we then categorize it, and then say, okay, who's going to follow which grouping of ideas we came up with. And we started honestly with a white sheet of paper and a blank brain. And we came up with a really powerful outcome. And that's the part that I love when it comes to, as an entrepreneur, having that brainstorm space that we can create. So, and David, you and I do this a fair number of times with each other for the benefit of the chamber. We do a fair amount of brainstorming too. So on the Yanni, just if I can ask you from your side, what do you think is uniquely different about an entrepreneur's challenges? So the single founder, 2 or 3 founders, small early startup stage versus a big company that sort of might be a startup running very big, or an organization that has reached its plateau of comfort.
Well, I think the first thing is the big business was small when it started out. So I think people tend to forget as the businesses grow the challenges which they had to face and had to overcome when they were smaller. There was a book I read many years ago written by a guy by the name, his surname is Gerber. But I guess it comes from the States, so it's Gerber. And the book's name is The E-Myth, or The Entrepreneur Myth. And in that book, he states that any entrepreneur actually dabbles within 3 personalities, being a technician, a manager, and the entrepreneur. So the technician is the guy who understands the work of the business. The manager is the one that needs to manage the resources of the business. And the entrepreneur is the one that needs to be the magic rainmaker, bring in a new business. But long and behold, most startup business owners have most probably worked for somebody, they have a specific specialist skill, and then they say, I want to go out on my own. So they start their businesses as technicians. And the skills needed to manage the business and to grow the business is not necessarily there, A. And then secondly, they don't have a bias towards that as well. And I think that adds to the challenges in taking a business from initiation to at least break even, and then over time, hopefully to success. But then there's another piece that comes into the equation, and that speaks to the functional areas in the business. Because if you look at being a technician means that you are looking at operations and IT. If you fulfill the role of manager, you're looking at management, admin and finance, HR, research and development, and financial planning. And when it comes to being an entrepreneur, it's marketing and sales. So the reality is that there's always this adage about business is simple but not easy, and that's really, really true because we have so many blind spots as entrepreneurs. Now, if you're a big business, you have the luxury of appointing people to fill different roles. So you don't have the skills, you don't have the experience, you can appoint somebody with it. But you're chief cook and bottle washer when you start out your business. So I guess that's the level of complexity being dealt with a single entrepreneur versus a successful and bigger vested business.
One of the things to complement what you're saying, and I absolutely agree with you, is if I look at starting a business today versus 30 years ago, the support that technology gives you today to do a lot of things is definitely easier than where we were before, where everything was so manual and you had to employ more people because of the degree of manual nature of the activities we used to do. And I think back on myself, how today I run the same business with seven operational people, whereas I ran the exact same business before with 80 people. Yeah, and it's very different. We can do things from home. We can do things. We don't have to have offices. There are expenses we don't have to incur today that in the past you had to have an office. It never occurred to you not to have an office. So it's interesting how we have, in some ways, become more relaxed, more casual, more human, but at the same time, technology does make it easier. Another analogy I've got is when somebody leaves the corporate world and they go non-exec, go retired, go plural, and the biggest thing that fights with them is technology. Everybody, whenever something didn't work, they called somebody, and now it works. Now things don't work, and then they never get to work again if they don't know who to call. So technology has a double-edged sword. David, if I could turn to you now, is there a common thread that you pick up through the relationships that you have with your various entrepreneurs? Is there a stage where they find it's suddenly more on the difficult side, as Yanni was talking about? Are there times where you see that, why am I here? What sort of challenges are there, and how do you help them through that?
Thanks, Sharon. That's such a good point. And we're going to hear Portia speaking about that a little bit later on as well. But certainly, when an entrepreneur starts a business, we refer to it as S-curve 1. And at this stage, there's centralized decision making. So here, an entrepreneur is making all the decisions in the business, and they're generally centered around survival, cash flow, customers. And what happens, though, is as the business does get new clients and does start becoming a little bit more complicated, it's just too difficult for one person to hold all of those details together. And the businesses need to realize that there is another step. And very often entrepreneurs aren't aware of that. So it's moving out of S-curve 1 into S-curve 2, which is about creating role profiles, as an example, which define people's roles and activities to help to ensure the quality is maintained in the organization. So I would say that's probably one of the biggest challenges in a growing business. is what to do next. How do you make sure that you guarantee your quality?
When I started my business, everyone said to me, it's all fine until you get to 13 in number, that unlucky 13. And now all of a sudden you've got to formalize a lot more than you would naturally have done as the original entrepreneur. You've got people, you have to have processes in place. And everything now has to create a structure. And the entrepreneur says, I actually want to go and do that technical bit Yanni was talking about. That's exciting. This management, this HR, this policies, the procedures, the compliance, I'm not interested in. And that, to your point, immediately is probably one of those early roles that need to come in, even if it's as a part-time external, is to actually get that stuff done seamlessly, quickly, effectively, instead of trying to get the owner to do it badly.
Well said, exactly.
Yanni, on your side, one of the things that we look at is, to what extent does the entrepreneur have control of their environment? We talk about pestle, we talk about the competitor market, we talk about the industry they might be in, their influence over getting finance, their ability to get that big bid in to somebody really big. They've got their BEE credentials. Now what can they do next? So what are the things that a business owner must own to grow their business?
It's a very interesting perspective. I've been fortunate since January of this year. I've taken over 100 businesses through business planning activities and helping them. And this is always a question I ask of them is, most probably I kind of feed them with information of what we can't control. And those are the things that we see in the press. We can't control let's call it macroeconomic environment. We can't control politicians. We can't control interest rate hikes. We cannot control the behavior of our clients or even our staff. And then when I ask them, let's brainstorm what you can control, for a couple of minutes, they just sit there numb because they don't think they can really control something. And then you have one person's hand going up saying, but I do have control over, and they mention something. So I've actually started to compile a list of things. I'm not going to, I mean, it's 3 pages long at this very moment in time, but I'm going to give you a couple of, I'm just going to ramble them down, because in that is such a sense of empowerment once you understand that you can actually control so many things. So here goes. So you can,
what we'll do, just for the audience, if you'll share that with us afterwards, we'll put it in as a downloadable for everyone.
Yeah,
and that
cool.
will be helpful if you don't mind. But yes,
Yeah.
let's have a look at the high level.
Yeah, high level. So quality of product and service, ethical conduct, your attitude, your mindset, knowledge of your target market, self-discipline to implement and to commit to your promises which you make to clients, managing your cash flow and actually doing the forecasting. You can manage your time, your priorities, your work ethic, your systems and processes in the business, your resource allocation, clarity of vision, how you respond to anything, productivity, giving info and knowledge to clients. In other words, teaching your clients. And just the last couple, the marketing of your business. I mean, you can do so much to take your business forward, keeping your promises, creating that business plan, after service delivery, and professional conduct. And that's just a part of the list.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That is absolutely amazing, Yanni. That is so such a lot of common sense, but so insightful when you put them together in that way. And what I find interesting in what you just listed there is the degree to which a lot of that is about the person, the character, the behavior, the ethics, the education, the application, the resilience. It's all around the people. And that's a really, really interesting observation I picked out of all those as you were reading through them. One last question quickly, David, before I hand over to you. In this world of instant, In this world where we have social media, and therefore this point that Yanni's alluded to a number of times around marketing, how does that very new in business terms ability to get our business out there through the use of social media, how much is that good and how much must we worry about it? And therefore, we're all looking at AI coming down the road thinking, oh my goodness, what's we going to do with this? So just what's really positive about that social media platform, and what are our concerns that we need to just alert businesses to in the social media space?
Certainly, false information is always going to be a challenge. So false information is always going to be something that we have to be very cautious of and manage. But what we're finding is the social media platforms are very, very helpful. Not only do companies want to see the brand, they also want to see the leaders and the people behind the brand. And it's a really nice opportunity for entrepreneurs and businesses to reach audiences that they wouldn't necessarily have that ability to reach. So as long as it's used in a constructive, proactive, caring way, it has a very positive effect on the image of the business itself, but also the culture of the people within the organization.
Thank you, David. And interesting, you said something that just picked up again on what Yanni was saying. It comes down to the person, to the people, to the tone from the top, to we're doing the right thing by ourselves, by our business, by our customers, by our planet. And one of the sort of last message I would like to leave before I hand over to both of you is we're running our businesses. We're not running it only for profit. We are running for profit to be sustainable and to give us a lifestyle, a living, a success, to stroke those other requirements we have as human beings. But the one biggest requirement that we don't always notice, and for which we must have a purpose, is who's benefiting in our external stakeholder, internal stakeholder group, other than me, the entrepreneur. Why am I doing this? Who else is going to benefit from me putting in my hard labor? Am I looking after the planet in a way I should be doing? Can I do one little thing more today to help my community, or to help my environment, or to support my governance of my business, to bring diversity into my organization, to have an inclusive mindset, to listen to everybody? If I just do one thing every day in that sort of modern agenda mix, entrepreneurs will run better businesses, in my view. So that's my last contribution. Thank you very much for giving me the space as the chairman of the chamber to put my little entrepreneurial bit in as well. And I would like at this point to hand over to David and Yanni, who are going to run the second half of the session. And to our four entrepreneurs that we have present, if you'd like to come on camera, please. We've got Pindiwe, Portia, Sazi, and Nick. A nice mix of people with a wide variety of entrepreneurial businesses that are as diverse as the people present. And I would like at this point to hand over to David. If you could introduce everybody, and good luck for the rest of the session.
Sharon, thank you so much for your huge contribution this morning. It's just incredible. Portia, may we please start with you this morning? You've created a very successful business in a very tough market, and it's a male-dominated market. I know this hasn't been easy, and we'd like you to share some of the challenges that you've had, in particular, managing cash flow and growing your business to a new level. And Portia, would you please just share a little bit about yourself and your business as well as a start? Thank you.
Okay, thank you, David, and good morning, everyone. My name is Portia Dlamini. I am the founder and the managing director of Emakeni Group, which is the business that I started 10 years ago. It's a cleaning and hygiene business operating mainly in the industrial and commercial space. We basically offer contract cleaning solutions to corporates mainly, hygiene solutions, garden maintenance, in general, facilities maintenance. And in some cases, we have project managers that manage contractors for our clients. So I've been in business for 10 years, and there's been a number of challenges that one has at a point in time whereby we are now ready to grow and take the business to the next level. So David, back to you. I think you wanted to know something about the issues of cash flow and all of that.
Portia, if you could share with us some of the challenges. I know you managed to get an incredible new client, but it came with payment terms of 90 days.
Okay.
You can just share what impact that had on your business.
Okay, firstly, at the beginning, I'll start by sharing that at the beginning, we had cash flow issues, but they were not so humongous because the type of clients that we have were smaller clients. But as we began to grow, and we started serving or offering our services to corporates where we had a lot of staff and large equipment was required, we had challenges when it comes to firstly capital expenditure, money to pay for to buy and pay for the equipment, and also working capital. So which means that we got the contract, but there was and that the clients do not really understand that you have cash flow issues because they expect you to operate at corporate level. So we had to make them understand the challenges that one has with the banks, especially when it comes to getting access to finance. Most of the banks, especially in South Africa, they find it very risky to lend to small businesses. So that's one of the major challenges that we face, especially when it comes to doing bigger projects and to growing. So we started negotiating. The plan also was to, obviously, we ended up getting an interest-free business loan from one of the companies just to get the equipment. But in terms of working capital, we needed a lot of money to cover 2 months because the payment terms with this specific client was 60-day payment terms, and they were not willing to budge. So it was a long negotiation to and fro with the directors to make them understand the predicament and the challenges of how this would affect service delivery if we do not get the money to pay the employees, and how it would affect also the morale and the unions, because we also work in a unionized environment. So we have to make sure that all our employees are paid on time and in full, and no one would understand if that is not done. But eventually we were able to move from 60-day payment terms, that was after two months, to 30-day payment terms. And that really has helped a lot in terms of making sure that there's enough money to pay the employees and all our suppliers on time. But this was just for one contract, one big contract. So if we have multiple contracts and we are planning to grow to a regional and national level, we really have to have a clear strategy on how to ensure that there's enough money or there's cash flow in your business as you go to the next level.
Thank you so much, Portia.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, we can hear you now.
Okay.
Yanni, do you have a question that you'd like to ask Portia?
Normally, when you in the industry in which you operate, you are very dependent on corporate businesses and their supply chains, and they are notorious to make it very difficult for small operators to kind of operate in. So, and I think, Sazi, the same question goes to you. Is when you think about having or providing a service or a product, you in both instances you are providing services. Sazi, you a training service, and Portia, you having a physical cleaning service. Is how do you make sure that the supply chain of a corporate, first of all, notices you when you are marketing yourself, and how do you then, when you start with a contract, make sure that the things which are important for you, i.e. access to facilities, support of management and payment, those things are actually taking place. So the statement which I'm making, it's normally difficult for a smaller business to do business with a corporate business. How do you navigate that maze to be successful in working with them? And I think both Portia, you and Sazi maybe can give us some insight on that.
Okay, can you hear me now? I just want to
Yeah.
make sure that I'm audible. Oh,
Yeah.
okay. For us, at first, it was very difficult to penetrate the corporate sector, especially because there is this mindset that they do not believe in SMMEs. But then I changed the strategy. I started introducing myself because I started re-strategizing and understanding the sector that I wanted to penetrate, which is the manufacturing industry. So since I'm a process engineer by profession and I had been in the industry for about 10 years, I understood most of their challenges, especially around the facilities maintenance and the cleaning space. So I began to especially when you look at factories, I began to talk about the type of or the value that we would bring to them compared to a normal cleaning company or a normal hygiene solutions company. So when I started to speak their language according to the pain that they had at that particular time, that's how we penetrated the sector, and that's how one became visible. So that message, especially during presentations or when I'm teaching, I made sure that it synergizes or it works in conjunction with our digital marketing campaign. I communicated the same message on social media, in our social media platforms and on our website, such that it was catchy, or I was able to have access to the procurement managers to a point where one began to be understood and we're able to sell our services quicker. And then now at contract stage, once we get the business and after the negotiations, which usually take very long because of their lead times, I made sure one of the things that were critical is to make sure that there's the service level agreement between us and our client. If that is not in place, I have found that it becomes a major issue along the lines, because what was communicated at the beginning, there might be changes, especially with regards to them not paying on time or somebody overlooking you because you're small, they don't take you seriously. So if things are not written down, it becomes a major issue when it comes to service delivery and in making sure that you are able to do business and deliver on time.
Excellent. So I heard three primary things. I heard speak to the needs of the client, differentiate yourself and your value proposition, and make sure there's SLA. Thank you. That's great input. Sazi, what do you do?
Thanks for that question, Yanni. I think in my case, the dynamics are slightly different, but the solutions are almost similar. In the industry that I'm in, which is in the skills development space, the niche that we went into, which is financial education, is that you're not necessarily targeting the supply chain. That's one thing we had to learn the hard way, that by the time it goes to market, you're already too late. Because you may not fully understand what they are looking for. So a lot more work is done doing the introductions to the end users of your product. So you end up trying to figure out who should I be talking to in which organization. And it doesn't always become obvious. You reach out to that organization, they don't even know that service exists. The people that you expected them to be directing you to the right person. So you then have to go and do your personal introduction, do presentations. In most instances, you're talking to boards that sit on the foundations that fund the service we offer. It's highly regulated. So the compliance is the biggest challenge, that if you don't tick the right compliance boxes, you're not going to do anything with that organization. So the marketing, traditional advertising doesn't work very well for us. We've spent so much money and we realize we're not scratching the surface. Even with social media, well, you're not talking to anybody. You're almost better off on LinkedIn than you are on other social platforms. So it was learning those dynamics gradually that helped us to reach corporates. And you now realize this is what they will look for and so forth. And as you tick those boxes, you tend to get better reception from them. In terms of how do we work for them, I think we've been privileged enough to be in a space where the payment terms are not as challenging as they are. And as an example, to a degree, you are able to negotiate your payment terms better and be able to fund your operations. However, upfront, you need to have reserves of cash that allow you to get started while you await the initial processes to take place. So we've really built a strong cash flow position in that sense that allows us to remain active regardless of the delays on the side of the client. You asked a secondary question that said, how do we access the tools and resources? I think, again, we are in a position where we're now being looked at as a thought leader in the space. So we sort of influence some of the decisions they make to our advantage, not really because it's what we're seeking to do, but we've seen that with the exposure that we've had in the industry, we add more value in those discussions and we're receiving less, but contributing and setting a foundation that we need in order to operate successfully. I hope I am answering your question.
Yeah, no, definitely. And you were mentioning such an important point, and especially when you work with corporate businesses, I guess it's even more so than working with smaller businesses. So if you don't speak to the decision maker and the person holding the purse strings, it makes it very difficult.
Sazi, I have a question that I'd like to pose to you. I think financial literacy training is one of the most critical skills that we need to teach South Africans. There's no doubt about that. I wanted to ask you, in terms of the Black Economic Empowerment Act, I know that a lot of the financial institutions are encouraged to do training. I wanted to ask you, are the large organizations as passionate as what you and all of us are about transferring that knowledge and using that Black economic empowerment spend in a positive way?
Good question, David. I will say the answer is relative. I've worked with some that really take it seriously. They want to leave a lasting impact with those that they reach out to. This one particular organization, for example, is piloting amazing solutions that they always trying to study and research to see what will work best to create the lasting impact. Because, you know, it is a compliance requirement for financial services companies, be it banks, investment firms, brokerages, or even the insurance companies. They have to do it in order for them to remain compliant. However, some of them easily do it as a tick box exercise. If I can give you an example, there is still a huge lack of understanding of what financial education should be. We sometimes refer to it as financial literacy, but the legislated one is financial education. And the difference between the two, literacy just says, this is how much I know about my money. And then education says, this is how I can be educated to improve my knowledge so that I can make better informed financial decisions. It doesn't mean I will make the right ones. It's not financial advice, it's financial education. I need to understand the implications of my decisions, whether good or bad. I could still decide to spend all my money on booze after I know what the consequences of that will be. But the point is, do I know what the consequence of that will be? Now, what you will find with these organizations, some of them will say, we're interested in numbers. We want you to train so many tens of thousands of people, whereas others will say, we want you to just train a few thousands, but you must do repeat sessions with them. As you do, you spend more time on the same topic than you would on the larger ones, and the impact will definitely not be the same. What the industry is still struggling with, though, by extension to your question, David, is how do you then track that impact over time? You can track the immediate knowledge gain, but how do you track the growth over time? How has this changed people's lives? Yes, you can find one or two examples of people who say, because of that session, I've been able to do this differently. But how do you really change that behavior change over time? That remains to be seen, because there is no motivation for spending money on that.
You know, Sazi, just hearing you speak and hearing your passion, you've definitely found your niche. And I am absolutely certain that you're making a huge impact in many, many people's lives.
No, thank you so much for that, David. But I will pose an interesting one on the topic of entrepreneurship. We are in a space where, on the same motivation, suddenly the same business that we spent so much time to master, we're now suddenly realizing that we're being forced to change that and move that to non-profit organizations. So you basically have built your business and compliance all around taking advantage of that niche. And the clients are saying, we can get more points if you're an NPO. Would you want to change your business model and become an NPO? And as an entrepreneur, that's not what you were doing all these years, you know. So I think those are new dynamics that we are faced with as entrepreneurs. It's what our clients are looking for, and how does that impact on us, and how do we create value for our businesses, which are basically our life. That's what we spend our time doing every day. So those are dynamics that we are faced with in the industry now.
That's amazing. Thank you, Sazi. Pendiwe? Pendiwe, you've gone into such a niche market, and it's unemployed women IT graduates. Please, would you share with us what made you choose that niche as your focus for your organization? And please also just introduce yourself to us.
Thanks, David. Good morning, everybody. The company is Mbasane Women in IT, and the name itself is restricting that we deal with women, and we are putting it out there that we are focusing on women, and we're for women only for a reason. We believe that there are lots of unemployed graduates in South Africa, and it is such a painful situation that we as graduates in IT, we were targeted from varsities. We never had problems about applying during my time. The companies were coming to the universities, poaching us to go and start working. Now we've got this huge unemployment pool, which means that there is a problem. So we identified that there is a huge challenge out there. And the challenge is that what is coming out of the universities is not necessarily what the industry is looking for. So we are there to close that gap. We want to close that gap and make sure that the graduates get the skills that the industry is looking for so that they can be employable. We understand that not everybody who comes through our doors will be employable because of the high unemployment rate generally, and that the companies will have their limited budget. They can't take everybody that we train. We know that there are aspiring entrepreneurs amongst the pool of unemployed graduates that we upskill. So we also offer basic skills of entrepreneurship, basic business skills. And we're doing this to make a difference in the economy. We're doing this to give hope to those who are becoming hopeless. And we understand that most people would do jobs that they don't like, and they're doing those jobs because there is just a fallback. And we believe with IT, there are a lot of opportunities out there, only if they get the right skills that are required. So that is the main reason that we're doing this. We want them to get the right skills. So our scope is very broad in that company A may be looking for cloud specialists. Company B may be looking for software developers. Company C may be looking for technicians. So it is very important for us to have those collaborations with companies that are looking to employ them, or companies that are just willing to fund our initiatives. So companies would be like, we are looking for technicians, we're looking for software developers, we're looking for cloud practitioners. So we then take from our pool of graduates and then we train them. So it is diverse in that way, and our partnerships are very important. We collaborate with the key industry players like the Microsofts of this world, Amazon, Cisco, because the skills that are needed are lying within these companies, but they don't have the resources. So we are just an in-between, closing the gap between the industry and between the beneficiaries who are our employed graduates.
Well said. Thank you so much. I know Yanni's got a question for you.
Yeah, so I mean, you now mentioned the big IT software, hardware providers. are they also the financiers of the programs which you run? Because if I think about unemployed youth, they most probably would not be able to do the funding themselves. So what does your funding model kind of entail?
Yes, we've got different models. Other companies would be saying, we already have a pool of graduates that we have hired, come in and give us additional skills because we can see that they lack in this area. And so those companies will fund the projects. We also have companies that say, we want to contribute. We would like for you to be maybe a partner within the years. There's a YES program that is run where companies get points for participating in the YES program. Companies would say, we don't have the capabilities, we don't have the time and the resources to run the YES program. So come on board and run the programs for us. So we always need a funder to fund the project. Whether they're going to take them on board or they're going to let us find the opportunities for them, it doesn't really matter. Some will say, please train them. We just want to contribute. We understand the problem. We understand that there is a need. So here is a budget. You can take so many and then you can train them. So that's how we function.
Excellent, thank you.
Thanks, Pindiwe. Pindiwe, do you see the ICT sector growing in the future?
Definitely, David. I like the fact that ICT is always flagged as this best industry because of the world we live in. But in South Africa, I believe we're way behind. I mean, we can be talking about 4IR, but we are way behind the world. So for us, there is a long way to go. There is a huge scope to grow. There is a wide variety of skills that need to be entrenched, which is why we are not confined with one type of skill that we offer. The market dictates that this is what we're looking for, and then the industry players say, these are the skills that we want the youth to have. Because you can have all the Amazon's companies coming to South Africa to invest, but who is going to support? Who is going to support their clients? They'll be taking on the clients and saying, we have sold cloud solutions, but they need technicians. They need people who are going to support all these nice solutions that they offer to the industry. So we've got a long way to go, and we've got a very huge scope to work with. Thank you.
Absolutely amazing. And we wish you every success and thank you.
Thanks, David. Thank you.
Nick, last but not least. So Nick, we're meeting today for the first time and it's a pleasure to meet you. I know that you're chair of the Young Professionals group with the South African Chamber United Kingdom. I know that you have a very detailed and complicated portfolio of finance and investment and audit. Would you share with us your passion for entrepreneur development and how you think we can make the entrepreneurial journey easier for the entrepreneurs?
Yeah, sure. So it's probably just better to start from the beginning of my experience. So basically what my portfolio is that I've got a lot of experience managing finance functions for startups and SMEs through BDO in the UK. I'm fully UK based. I think I'm the only entrepreneur here who is based in the UK. But one of the businesses I work with or help found, their IT operations all based in South Africa. So we've got that link that was between the two. So I was the first employee with an ESG business with environmental, social, and governance, where a lot of what we do is we go into businesses and we advise them on how to be more environmental, social, and governance, and we calculate all their metrics, focusing on the SME space. And then currently I founded a venture builder, where what that is, which is Take Your Capital, and what that is, we partner with or co-found with other entrepreneurs and help them build their businesses and fill their skills gap. So to answer your questions of what does an entrepreneur need and how do we actually grow them, it's a very difficult question because every entrepreneur is different and slightly so there's a lot of soul searching when an entrepreneur needs to start out and sort of sort of to think of, okay, well, what skills do I have, and how do I then, and what skills do I need, and then how do I plug those skills gaps? And then going out and trying to find partners or people to either co-found the business with or outsource the operation. So if you're really good at sales, you might need operational support. So that might look like outsourcing your accounting function, outsourcing your tech. So I like to think that I work predominantly with tech businesses. So there's 3 pillars in business, which are your operations, your tech or science, and then your sales and marketing. And as a founder, if you're considering those 3 options, then which bucket do you fill in and which bucket do you consider yourself good at? And if you're missing any of those 3 options, then you need to go and find someone who can fill that and co-found with you. Because in my opinion, it can be done, but founding a business on your own is very lonely. And as Sharon was saying earlier, that just having that sounding board and having people around you, if it might not even need to be a co-founder, it could be an advisor or a person that you can talk to and have those creative discussions, because you can't put it on your employees. I think at the minute where we had I'm involved in a business with the ESG business where we went from 4 people to 15 people in the space of 6 months. And we had to completely change how we even spoke to each other, where we were a lot more, we have to be a lot nicer to each other in our calls, which was a transition that we went to, and going through that growth and seeing how it all relates can be quite interesting. So it's largely up to the entrepreneur to see, okay, well, where are my gaps and what do I need to think about and how do I fill those gaps? Because you can do everything, but if you work with other people, you'll often get to a better place and where you need to go.
You can see where your mind is. It's structured, ESG, governance, foundation. And I think your contribution has just been magnificent. Thank you, Nick.
No worries.
Yanni, do you have a question that you would like to pose to Nick or to anyone else?
I have 4 minutes. We have got 4 minutes, so it's going to be a brief one. I'm just very interested in the ESG focus which you have in one of your businesses. Normally, ESG is associated with big businesses. Is that still the case, or are you seeing a transition to smaller businesses? Also taking note of the fact that even if they don't formally need to report on ESG measures, that are starting to contemplate and think about this.
Yeah, that's very much the case. So it's coming because of the supply chain analysis. So big businesses need to analyze what's in their supply chain in terms of ESG, and need to make sure and vet other businesses to make sure that they're not doing anything wrong. And so that's what most governments have done, is they've come in and said, okay, well, to get this, we're just going to focus on listed and big businesses. And through that, we're going to get the little businesses reporting as well. Because to do business with bigger businesses, you're going to have to report on your emissions, your gender pay gaps, and all that wonderful stuff.
100%.
Thank you very much.
Nick, that was amazing. Beautiful, quick, sharp response. Guys, we just got 2 minutes left. Portia, would you mind sharing us your final statement of value? Sazli, if you wouldn't mind following directly, Pindiwe, and then Nick, and then Yanni. Thank you.
Okay, and my last words would be for anybody who desires to go into entrepreneurship. It's a rewarding journey, but it requires a lot of sacrifice, a lot of personal development, and also an evolvement in one's perception about life by engaging with different people and making sure that we have mentors and coaches that are part of your life, even as you evolve in this journey of entrepreneurship. Personally, I feel that is what has helped me a lot in terms of building a profitable and sustainable business in these 10 years.
And just on my side, just to build on Portia's words, I think for anybody that is in entrepreneurship, especially in the early stages, one of the messages I think I've learned over time is to be kind to yourself. And sometimes we are expected to know everything in our business. We answer every question to our clients, to our colleagues and staff members, and we end up being overwhelmed with not having the right answers at times. And Portia well put it to say that get the support you need. Nick chose the approach of saying co-found with someone. I'm still big on the one that says complement your gaps with mentors. Find people that have been there, that have done the process, that have gone through the journey. And when you're ready mentally to share your equity with someone else, then that you will make that as an informed decision rather than very early on in business. That's my position. Your kindness, you will get that support from your partners, or rather from mentors and coaches. Thank you for the time.
Fantastic. So, Pindiwe, your last statement of value?
I live by Steve Jobs' quote that says, the only way to do great is to love what you do. If you don't love it, you can fall along the way. And that's one thing that I've learned, is that you need to have passion. And otherwise you won't wake up because of the struggles that will come along the way. And entrepreneurship is a very lonely journey. Portia said it, Sazi said it, surround yourself with support, which is other entrepreneurs, coaches, mentors. That's why we are here. We've got the days on our sides. That's the only way, in my view, to survive in this journey. Exactly. So those are the only words.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Pindiwe. That's amazing. Nick?
Yeah, but my closing points are for any of those who are thinking of starting a business, it's, as everyone said, it's a lonely journey, but it can be really rewarding and positive. You'll find out a lot about yourself and who you are and what makes you tick. And getting the right people on that journey is hugely important. So just trying to be just trying to find the creativity in the business is what largely lead you to success.
Thank you, Nick. Yanni?
Choose to have an abundance above a scarcity mindset, because there are always opportunities even in the most challenging economic times. And never, ever, ever, ever give up.
Oh. Indeed. From me, be brave, think big, live your dream. And as I think it was Albert Einstein who said, whatever you can imagine, you can create. So it's all there for us. We just have to choose that it's possible. Just in closing, we're just after our time limit. Just in closing, just a big thank you to the panelists. I think today was absolutely amazing. What you've shared is just incredible, and there's no doubt that's going to help many, many people. A big thanks to the Wealth Creation team for their vision and helping us to guide and put together today's function. A big thank you to Yanni for co-hosting with us. A big thank you to Sharon for putting everything together and helping to show us how things are done. And that's all. I just wish everybody a wonderful rest of Friday and a wonderful weekend ahead. Thank you.
Thank you, David. Thank you, team.
Thanks,
everyone.